Welcome to the Loyo Locals podcast. My name is Jerry Jimenez. So glad to be back. Thank you guys for joining us. We're talking about joining. I'm joined by my compadres, Esteban Brockhoff. What's up, Esteban?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Here on this wonderful Wednesday night. Excited for what's to come here.
Oh, man, I should have pulled that. What day is it, guys? It's hump day. Happy Wednesday, everybody, if you're listening on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. Also, happy all those days. I'm not. I was gonna try to say Drew in Spanish right now, and it just did not. I don't know. Nothing came out. Drew Steck, what's up, man?
Dude. Yeah, I went by Diego, which is my dad's name, in Spanish class. But then when you choose like a Spanish name or whatever, you don't have to necessarily choose your like Spanish version of your name. Yeah,
Diego.
I think there is. I have honestly forgotten what Spanish version of my name is for sure. But I was trying to pour some Flama Blanca there, and it got on my shorts. But luckily they're red, which is my least favorite color.
So it's not Flama Blanca, it's Flama Roja. No, yeah. Are you drinking the Flama Blanca from
red.
Three Punk? The red.
Yeah.
What?
Well, it's wet red shorts now.
Oh, gotcha. Flama Blanca. Okay, because they have. Okay, so Three Punks. Shout out to Three Punks, sponsoring this podcast. They don't even know it. I'll send them the bill later. Steve's gonna get a surprise in the mail. Flama. They have a Flama Blanca, which of course is a lighter beer in color, and then they have the Flama Roja, which is the red. And it's two fantastic beers. But I mean, we're already talking about beer, so we'll just jump into it. What are you having, Steve?
I'm having Booze Brothers Canned Heat. It's their new West Coast IPA. It's phenomenal.
What?
Super good. One of my favorite beers I've ever had from them. And I love their beer, so super good.
Well, I'm going to share what I'm drinking in just a little bit because we're going to introduce our guest before I share that. Today we are joined by somebody that you guys will probably have heard from or have had some sort of connection with. You may just not know that you did. This man has I know that his title is technically director of marketing or marketing director for San Diego Loyo. Actually, Jesse Beltran, welcome, man. You tell me, what is it, director of marketing or marketing director?
Dude, to be honest, I had that dilemma every time I had to type it out. I'm like, is it director of marketing is a little formal, and then informal is more like marketing director. So I guess I just switch it up, to be honest. So In this case, we're being low key. Let's go marketing director. I'll take that.
Awesome. Well, Jesse, welcome to the show, man. We have been trying to get more and more people, obviously from Loyal, to join us to chat and just kind of give your background, right? Because this is the cool thing about having this club is we're in it together. Whether you're in the front office or whether you're in the stands screaming and losing your voice with us, we all have a part to play in this whole thing. This craziness that is San Diego Loyal and the locals. So welcome, man. I'm going to be having the Thundera Hazy IPA from Modern Times Beer, and I wanted to give a shout out to the one and only Jordan Carruth, who actually hooked it up with this beer, and I was helping him out with some plumbing stuff, and so he hooked it up, and I'm going to be having that now. That being said, and the reason why I wanted to introduce you here, because this is the first time that we have you on. You're the reason that we've been able to do a lot of these podcasts. Again, as the director of marketing, you obviously have to deal with us a lot, and so part of that is getting us people to come on the show, and we wanted to thank you for that. So I went on a hunt today. I got you some beers. We all picked a beer from a brewery. And so you have a selection of beers with you. I see that.
These right here. Let me see how many I can. Yeah, I got it here. I got the same one. Thanks, Jordan, as well.
Yeah.
Yes. So you asked before we started recording, I guess we get to pick what you drink. So guess what? I'm going to start drinking this one, so you can join me.
This one
with the Thundera. Yeah.
All right. Nice.
And as we go along, as soon as I see that you're running out, or it sounds like
we'll go to the next one.
We're gonna go to the next one. And so on and so forth. Steven Drew, I feel like they're you guys need to just start drinking right now because.
All right, I can do that. Deal.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
I'm actually gonna pour mine. Ooh,
but yeah, I mean, Jesse, it's great to have you on, especially like, you're kind of the guy behind all the emails, all the marketing, all the initiatives, all the tweets, all the Instagram. And I know you got a team, but it's really cool to kind of get to talk to you a little bit. And I'm sure all of our listeners, obviously everybody interacts with you, the social media you guys do. So welcome and super excited for this conversation.
No, thank you guys. Likewise.
So I kind of want to get started to know you from like the beginning, right? And usually when we start and we have somebody join us, I like to ask, what is like your first memory of being connected to the sport of soccer? I know that you come from other sports and you come from a background that's a little different from where you're at now, but soccer specifically, what's like the earliest memory that you have?
Oh, growing up, obviously, families like from Sinaloa, Mexico, so it's very baseball oriented. So it's not a lot of soccer in my family. But obviously, the majority of my family, to be honest, is a Chivas fan. So I remember seeing that a lot. I never got into it, to be honest with you, on that realm. I got more into the international side of things. Cool. So my family all, for the most part, rooted for Mexico. So me being a contrarian on occasion, I decided to go for the U.S., which I'm also very proud of. So those rivalries, Mexico-U.S., I just jumped on that. And obviously, that was my first memories when I was younger. And just see my family get mad about the bets they would make on Mexico's national team and lose them quite frequently. So those are things I remember for the most part. But the passion, nonetheless, is the first thing that you experience right off the bat.
So before we go away from that, how rad is it that you're working with Landon Donovan? And what does your kind of family think about that? Like, you guys talk about that? How does that work?
Yeah, everybody thinks it's pretty cool, obviously. Yeah. Honestly, like, it took me a while to kind of realize, like, this is actually Landon Donovan right here. Like, I'm in the same room with him. Because, to be honest, like, that's the guy I would, like, cheer for even more so, obviously. So, I actually told him a funny story. So I have a jersey with him for the World Cup, what was it, 2014? Where, I think, it was 2014. Years go by fast. Where, obviously, he didn't get called up to be on the team, right? And I got a jersey, got it with his name on the back. And the guy at the store was like, hey, he's not going. I'm like, yeah, but he should be going. So I'll make one with him because that's one I'm going to rock this year. So I would wear it often. I told Landon one day at the office, like in the first couple of weeks, I'm like, hey, I can't wear this jersey anymore. He's like, why? I'm like, because it'll be kind of weird, dude. Like a grown-ass man walking around the office with your name on his back. Like, this is kind of weird. He's like, you're right. It is kind of weird. But also kind of cool. Yeah. So I told him I'm not wearing it. And my wife's like, why can't you do it again? I'm like, don't worry, you will understand.
I have that white US kit. I have a Landon Donovan number 10 white US kit too. That's the kit they wore in the 2014 World Cup, and that's his jersey that he signed the very first time I met him back in like 2015, when he first like started showing up in the San Diego soccer scene. And I had the same jersey. That's such a funny story.
Yeah, you got to get the signature then. You're never going to see him again, Steve.
I know it. No,
you got it.
It's like funny to laugh about it now, how nervous I was, and like and now it's like, it's just Landon.
I walked up the steps of the Midway like at the same time as him, and like it was just really weird because I like met eyes with him, and it was like, oh, and then like we walked up like opposing steps, and so then I said hi to him at some point that day, and then another time I met him in a bathroom at City Hall. That was like the first time we actually met, but it's like really weird when you're just like, because he's such a warm, endearing person that you really do have to kind of come to the realization almost like a week later, like, oh wow, that's the same person who I watched score, those amazing goals and do what he did.
Steve, what episode did we have him on? Was it 20 or 19?
I think it was 18 or 19. 18. I don't remember.
18, because 19 was with Warren.
Yeah, make sure you guys go back and listen to that. Who's ever is listening to this podcast, go and check that out if you haven't already. And you get to hear some cool stories from the man himself. Yes. However, today it's about Jesse, guys. Come on, let's bring it back.
Yes.
Some good stories, honestly. LD's pretty cool. I think to your point, the first thing people will bring up every time they realize like I'm working for the club that obviously Landon manages is, oh, how is he? Because I think everybody just has this different like idea, based on what they've heard or they've seen over his playing career and all of that. So, and then when I tell them, like, honestly, he's just down to earth, super cool dude, like a genuinely cool dude. They're like, oh, that's cool. And I think they just expect more. Like maybe they want him to be not cool, like not humble. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it does kind of throw them off to an extent. Like, oh, that's underwhelming then, I guess. It's the way they make it seem.
Arm him with kindness. Yeah.
This is going to be the last question before we move on about Landon Donovan or Landon Donovan related. Are you guys planning on putting in a water fountain anywhere near the shop? Okay, we'll move on.
The camera on it,
I'm not answering that, and at the same time, no, we're not.
So we're gonna put one in the supporter section.
Shoulder whenever he walks up to one. Now he just looks just to make sure.
He's gonna listen to this, just be like, "I shake my fist at you, Jerry." It's just a little bit,
Actually,
more
one place that
colorful words.
Loves Red Bull Arena has no drinking fountains. By the way, I found this out once, so that's probably his favorite stadium. There's no.
What?
The things you know, Drew. The things you know. Oh my God.
Dude, we need to have a little jingle too. Random Drew facts.
We should make one.
I used to call them darts. Drew's random thoughts. There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Where's the A from?
Random thoughts.
Random.
Alrighty.
I was gonna say, Jesse. So to bring it back, oh man, I have a feeling we're gonna go off the rails today.
It's
so you're talking. It's funny because as you're talking about, you growing up and seeing Chivas everywhere, I'm like, hey, cool. And then you said you didn't get into it. I was like, oh. But then you said you rooted for Mexico, or your family rooted for Mexico. And I was like, yeah. And then I rooted for the U.S. I was like, yeah, that's exactly me too, just to be a contrarian. So we grew up in very similar backgrounds. But I was in Imperial Valley at the time. You are from where, sir?
Fresno. So I'm born and raised Fresno. First time I actually leave the 559 as we know it, it's to come here. So it's definitely been an experience, and it's definitely been worth it. So I was super excited about the opportunity. But yeah,
awesome.
Fresno, born and raised, just like Elijah. People that talk down on Fresno, beware of Elijah. He does not like it for sure. He'll let you know. Kind of what we were talking about before we started. Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit before we started hitting record, and you mentioned some former pre-soccer work experience in the broadcast booth. Can you expand on that a little bit? That's really interesting, and I found that definitely. Please tell that story.
Yeah. So actually, talking about soccer, so I was a very casual fan when it came to soccer, and then I started working at ESPN Deportes, Spanish radio broadcast, and obviously programming in Spanish radio is literally 80 to maybe 90% soccer. So that's when I really started understanding the landscape of how opposite it is to American sports structure. So I realized that's why they play so much, because there's so many different cups and tournaments and things of that nature. So that's when I really got more into it and more involved and more understanding of it. So that helped me as far as the programming side of things, but also did broadcast for Fresno State football and basketball for over 10 years, almost 12 years. So I had a couple experiences coming down here at Qualcomm, SDCCU. Sorry, Alex struggled when I did that too, for football games there. So that was actually when I came down, I was like, this city is really cool. If there's ever an opportunity, this is a place that I would love to live. So it's obviously it worked out that way. So I'm really happy about that. But yeah, I got to broadcast. Really helped me learn my Spanish more, because I wasn't so good at Spanish going into it. I just happened to know the sport when it came to football, and that's how I got my opportunity. And then I just started doing some Spanish lessons, unorthodox versions of Spanish lessons. I would listen to Spanish music, and that would help me really learn slang and enunciate words better. So yeah, it was a fun time broadcasting for sure.
Yeah, especially catchphrases and probably fun things to throw out kind of in games that would be probably more interesting. Sure. I've never listened. I was telling you, I've listened to a lot of Spanish broadcasts, and I pick up words, and I know Spanglish pretty well, but it's the energy is always different almost, whatever sport it is. It's just a different energy than whatever the English call is that I always enjoy. But I've never listened to a Spanish broadcast basketball game, so I have to do that at some point. But what does that sound like in terms of kind of the back and forth? Is it called kind of like a soccer game where with the passing, or is it more kind of getting into a flow where it's just kind of given the general call where you'd say hey, it's outside the arc, kind of coming from this person? Is that kind of where it would go? Or
so I learned a lot. My mentor in that was this guy named Erwin Higueros, who is the Spanish broadcast play-by-play guy with the Giants. So he actually was a play-by-play initially for Fresno State football. I was his color commentary guy, and he taught me pretty much the ropes. And it also helped that he was winning World Series. I personally like it because I like the Braves, and some of those were through that way. But he taught me a lot, so it was really cool. But he also told me like to make sure to keep that distinction between what people associate soccer broadcast to other sports, because in Spanish broadcasts, a lot of people just try to take everything the same. So, and when you're listening to radio, you want that distinction to know it's a different sport, not necessarily soccer. So he always told me just to go with the pace of the game. Don't try to mix in the soccer broadcast culture into the American sport, if it's basketball, baseball, or football. So yeah, to answer your question, pretty much it has a flair of that soccer excitement vibe to it, but it's still on that general English side of broadcasting style, just a little bit more. I think of the Simpsons concept, like when you see the Andres Cantor stuff. Obviously, to that extent, you want to compare it that way with American sports, I guess.
Oh yeah, the Latin American broadcasters usually see standing more often than American broadcasters. You see it on TV more here with the bigger games, but usually most American broadcasters are sitting down to call most games. Even for most like NBA teams, whereas you got that energy, you got that kind of, you want to kind of build that kind of standing energy, which is pretty cool, but kind of call it in a way that is unique to that sport as opposed to trying to translate something that's almost cartoonish a little bit at times.
Hey Jesse, is the B for Braves? That B behind you?
Yeah,
it is.
There you go.
You mentioned the Simpsons. Is it for Bart?
For Bart, there it is, man, for sure. There's a cool story to that, right? It's just my last name, so it's simple as that.
I'm just giving you I'm literally just giving you a hard time. For those of you that are listening and not watching, this will eventually be on YouTube, so you know what I'm talking about. All right. Hey, also wanted to mention real quick, I didn't know this was 6.7, and it is strong. Okay.
I'm feeling it already, huh?
No, not really, but I'm pointing that out. I was going to mention, so obviously that was, before you joined Fresno. Was there something in between you joining Fresno FC?
So actually, so while I was working at the station, at the same time I was doing part-time work with the Fresno Grizzlies, the AAA team in Fresno. So I was doing that, working more game production throughout the summer, throughout the season. And then they also had the PDL team, Fresno Fuego. So that's when I got involved with soccer a little bit more. After being at in radio for a while, I was like, you know what? I need to focus into my sports career. Took some chances here and there, and I landed the opportunity, obviously, with Fresno FC when they came about. So the timing kind of worked out. And then I shifted away from baseball and just focused on Fresno FC, which was honestly, it was a good thing for me. I appreciated it so much, like just the experience that I got to have. And to really see the passion. PDL is really cool. It's a good way to like learn. And the passion comes from there as well. But then you see it at a different level and a different scale when you get up in a higher rank of level. So it was actually, Fresno Grizzlies, to answer your question, for maybe 7 seasons, and then 4 to 5 Fresno Fuego seasons before Fresno FC came about. And then that's when my full attention went straight to soccer. So it's actually been a good little transition that I'm enjoying really much. And to be honest, like, I have more summer freedom now. When I was working AAA baseball, you're working 14, 15 days in a row. And 4th of July is not a date for you to do anything because you're just at the ballpark every year.
Is there any connection between Fuego FC and the Fresno Fuego?
So it's pretty much, I know ownership from what I know. Ownership, I think there's some similarities in people that are helping with like the background and the front office. But as far as I know, not too much, not like the exact same team.
Okay.
But there is,
Oh, cool. Okay.
So we know
the foundation.
So now we know, born and raised Fresno, your background, very proud of being from Fresno. So help us bridge the gap. How'd you get into the contact with San Diego Loyal? How'd you get into San Diego? How'd you find yourself in the role you're in now? Bridge the gap to kind of the start of last season. And then I think we'll touch on the difficulties of last season from there.
Yeah. So I think everything's always about timing. Like I said, when I left radio, at the same time Fresno FC came about a couple of months later. Similar story here to an extent, where Fresno FC, obviously you've heard the stories of everything that happened down there. And when we started getting whiff of it, obviously I was just like, okay, well, we'll see what happens next. I wasn't even thinking of another job. I was just like, let's finish this season. There's too much going on that I don't have. If I start stressing on that, I'm not gonna be able to do this job effective. I was like, I'll figure it out. And there's honestly thoughts in my mind, like, hey, I have 2 kids. Like, I don't know if I want to be doing the sports hustle anymore, like bouncing back and forth and all these things. So I was looking at other job opportunities as well. And then actually Ryan, who works at the club, he actually reached out to me. He's like, hey, I think there's someone that you should talk to. Like, they're looking for some people. And I know obviously Fresno FC what's going on there. You have some good experience. Maybe there's something that can work out. So he connected me, and pretty much the last day I helped, this funny story too. I helped them move stuff to Monterey, like all the office stuff.
Really?
Oh,
yeah. And then the week after that, I was here. Like, I think I was here doing an interview, or the week of I was doing an interview. But like 2 weeks later, I had no break. I was planning to take like the rest of the winter off, to be honest, the rest of the year. But then they offered me the job, like, hey, obviously we would like you to come sooner than later. And knowing obviously a startup, I'm like, yeah, I think I need to be there like yesterday. So pretty quick, it just happened so fast. And next thing you know, I was working here in San Diego and living. And for the first couple of months, I was going back and forth because my wife and kids were there. So every weekend I was traveling, and then I was coming back here before fully moving in like the beginning of the year.
Cool.
Wow. How long were you commuting where your family was back there and before they came down?
So I only actually did it from like mid-November when I got hired to pretty much the year. And then January, I already had my apartment stuff towards the end, but I settled in and I said, just like, it's the season now. Like, I need to just stay here. I can't be going back and forth every weekend. So yeah.
Well, yeah, my dad did that for a bit for a job, and it's interesting because you really do kind of commit into the culture a little bit, and it is kind of a almost when he moved and started a new company actually, and so it is kind of that like almost baptism and like the culture of what's going on. So what was one of the earliest takeaways in terms of like the differences in culture? And you and I have talked about this a little bit between there and here, in terms of, you know, just kind of seeing what this club was doing and kind of how instantly maybe it felt differently than other organizations you've worked with, I guess.
Yeah. So for me, obviously, going through any experience, you're going to learn and take stuff away, just like you can say out in any case. Obviously, coming from that situation in Fresno and seeing how everything that worked out and things that didn't work out and reasons why, like you take all these little points and understand why. So going into another startup situation, those are things that I wanted to make sure, like things that were red flags before, I want to make sure like if those things are answered. So for me, just coming in and knowing the culture, knowing obviously how the front office will say and what the mindset was, and the idea behind the team, I really like that because in reality, Fresno, as far as like the organization, everyone that was part of it had a good sense of the community feel. And that's the first thing I felt here. Obviously, just I think the week after I interviewed or before I interviewed, that's when the crest was unveiled and the name and all of that. So that right off the bat was like, okay, there's definitely a commitment to the community. That's for sure. So I definitely appreciated that, especially coming from a background where I focus more on community events and game production and being focused on how we can obviously assimilate our community. So to me, I think that's the first thing that caught my eye, and just knowing how San Diego obviously has been waiting for a team to call their own. So I think that mutual feeling of like we need each other type of thing, I think is what really pumped me up and really got me on board. Like, hey, let's go, let's do this.
Yeah.
I think, you know, for us, having met you kind of from the beginning when you showed up, we could tell right off the bat that, you know, you were going to do some big things within the club. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't come into this club quite right away with the position that you have right now. Is that right?
I did.
Okay.
Over the course of the year, title-wise, yeah. But in terms of responsibilities, things have changed a little bit over the course.
Cool.
But yeah, for the most part, it's along the same lines, you can say.
I think that a lot of people within this club, as it is, like they may have a title, but you guys do kind of like everything.
Yeah.
You know,
like a startup. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, it's just really cool to see how everybody, you know, helps each other out and stuff. And so that's awesome. So Ryan brought you in, and it was my understanding that Ryan wasn't gonna really work for the club full time, but it seems like almost, and I don't know if he is right now, but he's doing so much stuff that it might as well be freaking full time right now, right?
Yeah.
So Ryan was consulting, and that's why he recommended. He's like, "Hey, you should come down here and stuff of that nature." And
cool. I'm only here another couple weeks. That was like his line the first times we met him. Oh, I'm only here another couple weeks, and then I'll be gone. I'll go back to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And eventually ended up, hanging out. And it was
now he owns a mansion in Chula Vista.
Yeah, right.
I know. Trust me, we're all telling him, we're like, yeah.
Palatial estate. Yeah.
You're telling him what?
No, we would all tell Ryan, we're like, yeah, sure, you'll be back. You'll be back. And then, sure enough, now, like you said, you got that mansion out there in Otay.
Right by the lake, you know? Tacos El Gordo next door.
I heard George Clooney's moving in down the street, yeah.
That's awesome. So I kind of want to get into what it is that you do exactly and kind of what your day-to-day looks like. I know obviously with this pandemic it's kind of weird. I know that a lot of people that are part of the club haven't really been in the office. So kind of right now where we're at, take us through a day in Jesse Beltran's life.
Oh, I'll go even pandemic. Like you have kids running around, as you guys know. I'm just playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to do emails and calls and just doing this thing like and then they don't know no concept. I mean, you're like talking, they start talking to you. I'm like, no, like I'm on the phone. You can't talk.
Oh yeah.
But no, so for me, for the most part, it's just trying to make sure on our end that we're getting prepared for the season, because a lot of the work in the season last year's obviously like something different, like everything was changing. So it was always like a new season every day, it felt. But you want to prepare yourself in the off season, and that's one thing that's common across all sports. Is preparing yourself and getting ready for when the season comes. You're kind of just hitting it in stride and going. So for us, it's pretty much that, just focusing on some initiatives and platforms that we're looking to do that obviously are community focused, community centric, making sure our social media, our engagement on digital, with the help of Ryan, obviously, who leads the way on that stuff. It's just lining up to what our values are, what we want to do as a club, and then getting prepared for obviously what that in-game experience is, to try to simulate what we did in that first match. I mean, that's all the optimal goal is to make March 7th happen every match, to have people there packed and give everybody a good time. Like that's the optimal goal for us. And then, so just finding ways to fine tune that in every way, having conversations, obviously talking to you guys, talking to the rest of the community, feeling simple things that can prepare us to be successful. Because I think it all really starts with just doing the simple things right, and then trying to grow off of that, honestly.
Yeah. Devil's in the details. Totally.
Yeah.
And going back to that first game, like, you know, you were obviously, you mentioned you were brought on board a couple months before that. I'm sure it was drinking from the fire hose, just like we were trying to prepare for that. You know, you kind of push, prepare for like a full season of that whole thing, you know, especially for like an experience that, you know, it's totally immersive. Like the fan experience, the supporter experience for soccer is like, you know, be there, join the culture, you know, build a family. That's like what we all were trying to do. Right. And then we had this first, you know, that first match, that first glorious night, and then boom, you know, pandemic. So how did you pivot? Like, how did that go internal? What were discussions like? You know, was it like, oh my God, we're doomed? Or was it more like, let's go, like, you know, pick up the pieces, let's see what we can do? Like, I'm just interested in how that works from like an organizational sense. Because from us, I mean, we're just volunteers, right? And we did what we could, but it's a different perspective from a club and an organization and a business, right? So I'm really interested to hear your kind of inside take on how that went.
Yeah, to be honest, we were very optimistic of like what the season was going to look like after that. We never really took like, oh, the season's over, like let's just get ready for season 2. I mean, we never had that approach. We were hoping obviously to start sooner than later, and obviously our leadership, Warren, Andrew, Pete, Ricardo, and everyone else, we just took the opportunity to like learn what it took to get to that first match, get to our second match, away match, obviously, and then kind of just get that experience, learn, slow down a little bit in terms of like fixing details that we wanted to, and then hoping obviously to come back with fans in the stadium and seeing what that would be. But it was just mostly preparing ourselves for what could be in any style of return to play. And I think during that time, obviously, we had a couple of changes, and that helped out in terms of getting our footing down, and you could say our foundation down to what we wanted to do when the season did start. So then when July 11th came around, we were ready for it, and it was really exciting. I think the team was ready for it, and everyone was just eager to get back to doing some sense of normalcy of your daily life. In our case, obviously working. So just being able to do that, I think, was exciting and motivating to us. So it was fun to have. I do remember we had like a club meeting, like when things were starting to shut down, and we just talked about what our goals were during this time. And I just remember Andrew pretty much giving us a story of one of his buddies, letting him know like how important and how big of a moment it's going to be when we're all back in the stadium. Not just us as a club, but when we get everyone back in the stadium as far as our community. So we experienced a little bit of that. I mean, getting back to the stadium ourselves, but obviously the optimal goal is to have everyone there with us. So that's the one thing that kept playing in my mind, to be honest. Like, let's just get there. Let's get through this so that we can have that March 7th moment again sometime here in the future. Because if that was special, I think this is going to be tenfold. You know what I mean? Like 100 times more special, just given what we experienced and what we've gone through and where we are now. I think that's like what motivates me. So I can only imagine like the guys, Landon, his staff, and our front office as a whole.
Yeah. Drew, what are you doing? Are you messing around with the graphics, man? Stop it.
I'm putting on cool graphics. Support local soccer. There you go. That's what we're going to do when we're back in the stadium.
I'm just going to keep saying it. For those of you that are just listening, check out our YouTube page. We're going to have some pretty cool stuff up there. We're working on some things. And by we, I mean me. No, Drew and Steve. And, you know, this is obviously going to be on the YouTube page as well. So make sure you go and check it out. And look at all the fun stuff that Drew is doing in the background while he's drinking.
Making fun stuff. It's fun. You get to see lower thirds that are subtext to the show. It's like a director's commentary to the show. You can get some.
You already know that this whole thing. We already figured it out, man. It's I ask a question, then Steve asks a question, then you ask a question. Drew, it's your turn, man.
I know it's my turn, but I like to change the graphics for my turn.
Okay, fine.
Next time I'll put this one up for Steve. There you go. But
it's like a walkout song, right?
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, exactly. It's the same thing.
We should ask all of
you are a baseball guy, and that's kind of where I think your sports passion, it sounds like, kind of really stoked a lot of your kind of early
for sure
kind of engagement, just to different levels of fandom and kind of what that looks like in different places, right? It looks like not just in the United States, but elsewhere, which I think is really interesting. What would you say translated from that to baseball? To the job you have now, at least in minor league baseball, I think there's a really strong sense of what that is and what that culture looks like. In minor league soccer in the United States, we're still sort of figuring it out, right? So what would you say is kind of like translated from that culture to this? My dad played a little minor league baseball, so I'm really familiar with like that culture has been around for 50, 60, 70 years really strongly. It's one of those things where this culture is only like 5-10 years old. So what are the pieces, I guess, that you would say are kind of, and I know Warren's has a lot of threads too that he talks about. So what would you say personally are the things that you've seen, at least from your time at Fresno, as well as just kind of what you know from the baseball culture that you're seeing kind of come up here a little bit?
Do you mean more from like the work side of things or like the fan side of things?
I think both, I guess from like from a passionate side. So answer it as a fan, and then and then kind of maybe the second is operationally, maybe things you've done or carried over that you think maybe work well that people just don't see every day.
Yeah, I think baseball for me, passionate was just being around the sport when I was a kid, playing it for majority of my life, you can say. And then just seeing the fan base, like the sense of passion for baseball, as you guys know, obviously as baseball fans as well, it's a little different. I mean, like the things that drive you as a baseball fan are completely different. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but it just does. Like to me, just watching the Braves on TBS with my grandpa when I was, I don't know, about newborn to now, is why I'm so pumped up about them. And everyone's like, why do you like the Braves? You live in Fresno. I'm like, don't worry, like long story. TBS. That's all I have to say. But so
I think availability, it's huge.
Yeah. And that's literally, I think, what it is. I mean, little things like that for baseball. And soccer is just a different sense of passion, like a high level, like in your face. And it just makes you pumped up. And to be honest, that's how I felt when I started getting more involved in following the U.S. men's national team. And it really just pumped me up in that regard. And then seeing it from the other side now, when we're trying to obviously engage our community and seeing that what it means, I feel like there's more of a community feel to soccer culture than there is in baseball. And I think just because baseball's traditional in that sense, you know what I mean? It's very like, this is what the sport is. And soccer has that traditional aspect on the pitch, but outside of the pitch, it's like, how can we support our team? How can we support our club from a community standpoint? So that's what I've noticed from a cultural fandom standpoint, for sure.
That's cool. Yeah. And by the way, I just want to make sure that we're clear on this. I don't really like baseball. I just like it when the Dodgers beat everybody else.
But you became a United fan for a similar reason, right? Because of availability, right? And somewhat because it was available to you when you. Yeah,
I just like watching 9-0 games. That's
killing people in fantasy.
No, but so
his numbers were ridiculous. Yeah,
I totally get that, Jesse. And it's cool because I'm like totally connecting with you right now because that's exactly the same thing for me. And like, when you're born in Imperial Valley and you live in San Diego and you root for the Dodgers, why? long story, but it's basically the exact same thing, and it's really cool just to see that. It brings to mind to bring it around to supporter culture, that everybody supports in a different way, and everybody comes into a team in a different way. And for us, it's basically, reaching out to as many people as possible and make sure we show them what you just explained, which is that there's such a community around this. This isn't just sitting down for 45 minutes at a time, going to grab a beer at halftime, come back for another 45, and just watch your team. That's not what this is about. Like, it's a match day is match day. From the moment you wake up, you throw on your colors, you walk to outside, you open up a beer at 5 a.m, start drinking. Like that's just me. Okay, that's fine.
Oh, me too. Oh, yeah.
Okay, Steve, I think Drew does it too. So it's part of this.
I won't admit I do it, but maybe.
I'm in a legal dispute, so allegedly.
Not on official hours, all right, Jesse. Not on official.
For sure.
Right. Correct. Just to kind of bring it back to the experience and all of that. I really love that you mentioned we basically, our goal is to make March 7th every single match day. Like, that's what we want. I'm gonna give you one better. March 7th, and then every game after that, something better happens and something bigger happens. And so, with that being said, and what happened last season, start thinking right now of some moments last season that kind of stand out to you, that you were a part of, that you got to witness within the club, that stand out to you and that really, just come to mind and make you excited for 2021.
Oh, there's a handful, obviously. I think just unveiling like our BLM jerseys and seeing like obviously the response to that, and knowing that it was something that kind of came around real quick. I mean, based on what was happening in our society and stuff of that nature, and obviously being led by, and it was really just spearheaded by our owner. I mean, our chairman, Andrew, which is really cool when you see stuff like that. That it just shows you like, hey, I'm at the right spot. Like, if that's our leadership and that's the decisions are being made that align with our community, like, I'm all about that. So being able to see that come to fruition and showing it and seeing the response from our players, from our community, from fans across the world, like, it was really cool. And then to start the return to play, I think was a cool moment as well, just because we were able to use those kits. I don't know if the players, even Nate, maybe weren't too happy about it being 110 degrees out in Salt Lake, but can't control that. It was fun. But it was a good experience just to be back on there, obviously, and seeing what the guys have been working on, to see it come, obviously, and result in 3 points to start the season. It was like, hey, we got something going. So that moment obviously was key. Getting some key guys throughout the year, obviously coming in and stepping up and helping the team get over that hump where we knew the team was, and just seeing the community support. One thing that grabbed my attention during the pandemic was obviously the Rady Children's fundraiser that we did, the virtual walk. I think that was really cool. Obviously, being able to support our partners, but at the same time not doing it by ourselves, because we know we can't do it by ourselves. Having obviously the support of our community to be able to be there and support a big organization like Rady's, I think really helped cement and prepare us for that season. I think when you look at it that way, being competitive, like off the field, off the pitch for us is the key, but obviously being competitive on the pitch as well. So those two moments, I think early on, were the biggest things before we obviously got to the latter part where beating Phoenix, and Phoenix is always fun, to be honest. And that goes back to my Fresno days as well.
Sure.
So we appreciate that for sure, those wins and having that good little run at the end, knowing that if we would have got into the playoffs one way or another, it would have been very exciting times.
So you mentioned getting a couple key guys, key players. How do you do like marketing and social when the club was struggling? Because I mean, we said it a lot on this podcast, but August was a pretty bleak month for performance wise. I mean, I think we scored like 1 or 2 goals. Like, how do you kind of pull up that Twitter account and hit a tweet and try to keep things positive when everybody's like, where are the goals? Like, it's all negative. It's like, how do you see those mentions? Like, what is it from the phone holder's perspective?
I'm sorry, but just real quick, I totally just pictured Jesse as that one meme with the happy face mask, and in the background, just like during that time,
Yeah.
This is great. And you're like, yeah. No, to be honest, like, and Ryan's key in this component, because obviously he directs a lot of this, of the way things are perceived externally. And to be honest, like we're very transparent, as you guys noticed, like, and we're grateful for our front office leadership to allow that, and our coaching staff, soccer ops leadership will land in Nate to be able to be there. I mean, at every spot, and they have the trust in us to know that we're going to show what's best for the team, and obviously give us the best chance when it comes to social media to get the best engagement, but the best support from our community. So our approach really is like the guys, in all honesty, weren't feeling too great about that month. So what we did is we took that and we said, hey, we're going to be transparent. We'll show that to our community, because the worst thing you want as a fan, and I personally, and I think I forgot what movie it was. I forgot the name of it. But it's like the team's doing horrible. They're at a restaurant and they lost the game, and the fans are there like drinking away all mad. And the players from that team, I think it's the Red Sox. I forgot the movie. They're like drinking beer, and just having a good time. And the fans are all depressed. So I think fans want to simulate and feel like the players are feeling the same way. So that's why we kind of just focus on like, hey, we're not scoring goals. Let's show you guys working their asses off, trying to score goals in practice at training. And that's the way we're going to translate that, because eventually those goals are going to come. And obviously Landon would say that, and Nate would say that. The players knew that would happen eventually based on how hard they're working. So that's what we wanted to showcase. The fact that we're being transparent and that they're working is not a lack of effort. And you saw the turnaround on everything. And not just the guys that came in, but the guys that were working and struggling through that time period as well.
Yeah, and I'll say that, I don't think that for all the listeners here, I also don't think that that's just the way that you guys framed it and the way you guys did it, because I think it's the culture of the club. Because one of the things that stood out to me the most of last season, and there's a lot of things that stood out, but when Carlos Alvarez went on the post-game show with Darren and Jordan, and he apologized to fans. He said, "I'm sorry, this isn't good enough. I want to apologize to the supporters. I want to apologize to all you guys." And I mean, he will forever stand out to me in my mind for that, because that's ownership. That's a culture that was instilled. That's not just one player apologizing. That's him apologizing on behalf of the club. Like that meant so much to me as somebody who just, we had one glorious match. Yeah, we had a preseason match too, but like we had one night, and it's hard to connect to like, you guys have done a phenomenal job with social and all that stuff. But that was like one moment that just was like, wow, that guy gets it, but this club gets it, because he wouldn't be saying that just for himself. He says that as a representation of what that crest means to him. And so that was like a huge thing to me.
Well, it's also like a really good representation of what the club is trying to do and the people that they're bringing in, like Jesse, and it's not just in the front office. I mean, or I should say, it's not just in the team and the players. It's also in the front office. It's really important that the right people are in the right seat in the bus, is the way that I like to see it. And with Carlos, that's a great example, because they're a soccer family, right? His brother is playing, I believe, still with Galaxy, and with the national team in Mexico. And then his wife just had a hat trick, and I think got like player of the month, or honestly should be year. She's killing it in the Liga Femenil in Mexico. So they're very much a soccer family, and guess what? They're not the only soccer family. Like you're looking at other players and their families and how they grew up within the sport, and just the people that are coming to this team right now, I think are meant to be here. And it just goes to show the importance that you guys put into it, and just kind of to bring it back, the storytelling, part of it. I know storytelling maybe sometimes feels like fables and not real things, but it's, you guys are giving us the truth and being transparent, which is super, super good. One, for us to see that. It's refreshing, because not a lot of clubs are doing that. And the way that you guys do it, it's in such a fun way. Even when it's a bad situation, I almost still feel like, I can look at your guys' posts, and it makes me feel better about what's happening. And I think that you guys do that consciously, which is crazy to me, because you don't see that in professional sports. So yeah, man, kudos to what you guys are doing over there, for real. Like for us as just fans, and Steve said, like, volunteers. I mean, I don't think we're just volunteers, but
more than that.
It's like, it's very much feels like this is our club, and it's because of the work that people like you do, man. And it's today, like I was getting a shout out to Paul. I got a message from Paul Naku, who's very much involved too. And we were talking about that, and it's like, dude, this just feels so cool. Like Warren just invited me in to have some beers, and we're talking for an hour. Like that's just so easy to access, so approachable, and you've made it that way too. So So cool. Drew, it's your turn, man. You're back. Yay.
Shout out to Paul.
Shout out to Paul and his ramen.
I was gonna ask. I've got
some in my cabinet. He wants me to have it. It's going to.
I ain't touching this challenge.
Yeah, I'm. I did not. I somehow backed my way into this, but yeah, it's really between Jerry and Carl. But I like Warren coming in.
I don't know how Drew got involved all of a sudden, and Paul was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it too."
It's like Paul's like,
Drew,
you're gonna. Like, here you go, and I was like, I was like, I don't. It was like we were in a parking lot in El Cajon. It was weird. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, that was that's what happened. No, my webcam dropped off for a minute. I had a weird. I've got like 3 different USB things plugged into other things, and so I had to unplug a couple and plug one into another thing, and just relaunch the window. That's what I found out. When in doubt, just refresh, kids. Yeah. But yeah, the talk was better when I was gone, honestly. But yeah, my follow up to that would be, kind of in the same vein of what do you think is the biggest thing going forward, I guess, in 2021, in a season where we hope that it's going to start small, right, and then grow bigger. Kind of what is your biggest kind of challenge in terms of peaking maybe too early, I guess. But is that a concern, or is it more so just, hey, we just want to keep people engaged however we can? If that's online, that's great. If it's in person, that's fantastic. But we're just going to try and mix both, I guess. What's kind of your come up, I guess?
With us, honestly, it's just whatever. Like, obviously, we were challenged last year and just trying to plan and try to make the best of it, you can say, right? And like seeing how we can engage no matter what. So we definitely want to keep that formula of like being transparent, I think, is going to be the key, and it's going to always be the key no matter what the situation is, because obviously our community understands what's going on in general. I mean, we all know what's happening in society. So just understanding that we keep that transparency, and for lack of a better term, like keep it real with everyone, we're going to be all right. And what we want is obviously fans in the stadium. So we're going to try to do as much as we can to make that happen, because I think that's what separates soccer from any other sport in the world, is that passion, not like in general, but at the stadium. Those 90 minutes, that stadium is like what makes the difference. You know what I mean? And that's, you can watch documentaries on every sport and all these documentaries in soccer, and you see that the difference. It's like right there in front of your face. Same thing at a match. So I think that's our ultimate goal, to have that, but nonetheless, we're going to find ways to engage. We're going to find ways to connect with our community and how to help our community, and pretty much just find ways to connect people in our community to make better things happen for us. Yeah, that's the key. Without soccer, with soccer, I mean, we were challenged pretty fast, because I think as we were working on our why statement, that's kind of what came down to it. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We haven't had soccer. We're still engaging our community, trying to make our community better. So what are you when you don't have soccer? I mean, that's literally what the challenge came after a month of having your first season. So I think those are things that just challenge you and make you really think like, we have to do better outside of just a soccer component as well, because at the end of the day, that will help carry you forward, you can say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I think like the social media obviously is a big part of that, and I think we've kind of touched on it. But one of the things that I think is really big in, say, like verified accounts, and with this club, and has become a lot more common amongst like baseball teams, soccer teams, is kind of like feeling there's a person behind the account. It's not just like this, account that's only tweets statements and finals, when somebody scores a goal, like there's a person behind that. And I think that's something you guys have done such a good job with. Like, what was it last night with your what's the best taco shop in San Diego? You guys were replying like, while still kind of maintaining that there's a credibility there, that when the account tweets, it means something. Yeah. But also like that, there's somebody there that's willing to engage and kind of communicate. And so I definitely applaud there, because I love seeing what's coming from, the Twitter account, Instagram, like what's coming, that from those channels. I love that kind of stuff. I just think that's such a good way to connect to people, especially in this day and age when so many people are kind of stuck at home and don't have much to do. When people are looking for engagement and looking for that connection with a club and saying, "Oh, well, they replied to me on Twitter. Wow, they really, they want to interact with us as people and supporters." Like that means something. So I super big kudos there.
Yeah, and talking about that, stop interacting with me. Leave me alone. Like, I don't know who it is, but just like stop tagging me on stuff. It's just random stuff, like backwards everyone stuff, and I'm like, it's like go away.
That was a good one.
was a good one.
No, I won't say who it was, but it was hilarious. I'll tell you.
I'm just proud that I'm building this, this like persona of being that jerk supporter that's gonna call you guys out, because that's totally what I want to be. I will call you out. That's our job. All right. It is what.
And to be honest, like, we need that. You know what I mean? Like, we want people to keep us on our toes, to keep us accountable to what we've said we're going to be. And I think some teams honestly don't like that. But I think for us to continue to be who we want and live our why and live our values, we need that. You know what I mean? And we've talked about this before. I think, like, and we'll push back on your guys' end if it's something that we feel it's right to our values as well. I mean, we're not going to make decisions outside of that, but I think it's a mutual agreement that we have. And I think that's healthy for obviously a club and its community and their supporter group. I think that's something that's key. But going back to your thing, Steve, that's something Ryan discussed early on, was like, hey, we need to make this social media account feel like it's a human behind it. So when people connect with SD Loyal, they're connecting with SD Loyal as a person, not a club, because that's what you feel. And that's honestly the approach we have. So we don't want to post to post. We want to make sure that when we post, there's significance and meaning behind it. You know what I mean? It's not just like, hey, let's throw this out there just to throw it out there. And it's like, let's throw it out there because we think it can engage our community. That's what we want to do, is engage, not just put things out.
Right.
Like a box.
Yeah, I think we're going to need to get Ryan on the show and talk a little bit about.
Oh, he'll be good. He'll be good.
I think we need to bring Danny in as well, who's our new guy, right?
Yeah. So talk about Danny. Talk about Danny a little bit. How'd that come about? That was announced kind of informally through his Twitter. I think if our members haven't seen that, but can you talk about how that came about, what his background is? And I'd love to have him on to tell the story, but I'd love to hear how you got connected with that. And then
it's Miller time
from that a little bit.
Yeah, Danny's a cool dude, man. Honestly, I met him at the first match, March 7th. So he was there doing some photography stuff for us. And he was already working at the Timbers. He just wanted to come shoot. So just knowing his personality and meeting him that day, Ryan got to meet him a little bit more than I did that night. And then he references like, hey, Danny's here. He's super cool. He had a great time. He's some photos or whatnot. And then down the road, he started seeing what we're doing. And obviously he just I think he just loved the culture. And he's like, hey, if anything happens over there, let me know. And we're like, oh, for real? Like,
cool.
We'll see what happens. We didn't have any plans, honestly, to be at that moment, but knowing that we're going back into a season and potentially things expanding, we were able to potentially hire someone. So then we reached out and asked if he was still willing to do it based on the fact that we were looking for that position for some time. And he just fit, honestly, culturally. That's the biggest thing to what Jerry said earlier. It's not just about, oh, what have you done in the past? How good are you at your job? But it's more, who are you as a person? Because this role in particular is going to be dealing with our players, our coaching staff, our community, obviously, and we want to just continue going on what we're doing now. We don't just want to have someone that's great at their job, but is a bad person, for lack of a better way to describe it. But we want people that have an equal balance. And I think that's, to your point, like, that's literally what our club is. Landon talks about players on the pitch are just as good as people off the pitch. So that's kind of what our goal is internally as well when it comes from the front office. But yeah, Danny will be a cool guy for you guys to interview. Him and Ryan, they'll be pretty good stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I think we need to get them on. It's one of those things too that I very much love bringing to the attention of those that may look at San Diego Loyal or their club just in general as a business, as an organization. There's like people that are a part of that, and we need to get their stories, because that's like the real cool thing about being a part of this, and it's what also makes us feel like we're a part of it even more. So yeah, we really appreciate you joining us today, man. How are you doing on your beer, by the way? This is like my break.
I'm like almost done, so I can open up another one.
All right, let's go. Let's do the we're gonna go with the Barrio Lager, dude. Barrio Lager from Thorn.
Yeah,
because
also a partner of ours.
Thank you, Steve. Go for it. Take it, because I have to go get that beer.
So this is a good, perfect pivot point to saying what is coming next. I feel like we've talked plenty about the struggles through COVID, through last season, also your background, but can you tell us anything about any sorts of plans, marketing initiatives, kind of what's on the horizon for 2021? Obviously, like you said a couple times, goal is fans in the stands, but I think everybody understands that that's out of your control. It's out of our control. Yeah. It's kind of in the hands of the general population, how everybody does with COVID, how vaccines roll out, et cetera, et cetera. The point is, how are you planning for just such an unknown season? Because that's something we're struggling with, honestly, internally. We're talking about, memberships and how we're going to handle the season. And it's hard to do memberships when we're talking about what can we promise our members. So, there's a lot of discussions going on internal from our end. How does that work from your guys' perspective?
Oh, no, that's a good question. For us, it's just, I mentioned initiatives and platforms that we're going to be rolling out throughout the year. I think obviously being key to our success in the community, I think that's the biggest thing. So that's a component, right? Like outside the soccer side is like how we continue to be who we are on the community. So kind of just focusing on those 6 platforms and initiatives that we want to do this year that's going to involve our community as a whole, and not just for our benefits, the benefit of everyone. And that's the key. Like, and we're not going to do it by ourselves. We're going to need the help of you guys, the community as a whole, to jump on board and make it happen. That's what we want. But one thing that I'm really excited about is we announced Loyal Select. Like, I don't know, we didn't have that in Fresno. So when we were able to talk about it here, I was like, this is going to be super cool to know that young kids have an opportunity to know there's like, hey, there's an easy journey. There's a roadmap. You go to college, they give you like a roadmap how to graduate, and that's your ultimate goal. In this case, like, there's a roadmap to you to become a professional soccer player in your hometown. Mm-hmm. So knowing that we have like the best people possible within our community to help with that, and I'm referencing Matt Hall, who loves being on interviews, as you guys have seen. Yeah. But him and obviously our coaching staff as a whole, like, I think this is going to be a really cool initiative just to involve our community and our young soccer players here in the community. Obviously, it's like a very high focus when it comes to the numbers here in terms of kids that play soccer in this community. So I think that for me personally is the community initiatives, but Loyal Select honestly is a big driver of that, just because we're doing something different. And it's something that San Diego got pro soccer. Now there's a way to continue that pro soccer with local talent as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's huge. We were talking about that, how important it is for us as supporters too, to have, I think just in general, the city of San Diego is very much loves to be represented by its own people. And when we see somebody doing great, especially at a higher level that we know started out when they were, little kids here just kicking the ball around like in Mission Beach or something, it brings so much more meaning. So that's fantastic. And again, just real quick, want to shout out Paul Arriola, man. I don't think we've really had a chance to talk about that. Chula Vista boy. So that's what I mean. Like, for us, we're all like, yeah, hey, did you hear about Paul Arriola?
Yeah.
Es de Chula Vista, ese güey es de Chula Vista. ¿No sabían? It's really cool for us, right? To be able to,
for sure.
There's others as well, but it's just.
So speaking of that like homegrown talent, like, what's it like, with Elijah? How does that work? Like, internally, you guys homies, with your background in Fresno, like, did you guys know each other beforehand? You guys connect.
Oh, that's a good question.
That's, we're talking about homegrown talent here. That's a homegrown talent from your home. So.
Yeah, dude, honestly, I love Elijah. Like, he's super cool, down to earth guy. He fits literally what Landon preaches. Like the type of player he is, the type of person he is, like what he values. There it is. So yeah, he's a very passionate guy. When it comes to it, but I got to obviously see his career kind of start when he was playing for Fuego, and I was working for Fuego, and then seeing obviously how it grew. And then the first year that our inaugural season in Fresno, he wasn't with the club, but the second year he was, because of how he played at the PDL level. So just seeing his work ethic, and then just coming here and seeing how he developed as a player himself, as a professional, and then seeing this community obviously take him under his wing and like really appreciate who he is, it honestly pumped me up a lot. And I would always tell him, like, dude, keep doing your thing. Like, this is cool. And that's how I felt personally myself. Like, I'm not from San Diego, but I feel like I am now. I've only been here a year. And I think that's what this community does to you. And I really appreciate, like, I like that. Like, talking about Paul Arriola, like, when he was scoring on Sunday, I was telling my kids, like, hey, they're from Chula Vista. And my kids are like, okay, cool. Like, they're 5 years old, 7 years old. They don't know. But to me, usually you say that about your hometown. So the fact that we're able to connect that dot already, it's like, that's what this community does to us. And I know, I'm not going to speak for Elijah, but I know he feels very similar based on conversations him and I have had.
Yeah, and his I just love his like energy, like in the social like videos and stuff like that that have been put out, and like the the sound drop that Jerry keeps dropping. Like his energy is just like, it just seems like his like positivity and his like smile like permeates everywhere through the club. Like, I love to see that kind of stuff. So when I saw his name on the, who's returning this season, I was super stoked to see him come back.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting like he's one of those players that just sticks out.
Yeah,
because you can tell he is just such a cool dude. And not only is he just super talented, he's super good, but he just comes off as somebody that I can go up to and be like, "Yo, what's up, dude? Let's go grab a beer and some tacos," and be like,
"Tacos like Gordo, he'll be down."
Like,
he knows who he is. He's very confident who he is and what his role is, and that comes through on the field. It comes through off the field, obviously, and I think that it's one of those things that it helps define the identity and the soul of the team a bit. And so to know that he was coming back was like, okay, we're retaining a bit of that soul, that essence, whatever we are. As
Drew. See, Fresno's not that bad, dude. I don't know why you hate Fresno so much. I'm just messing with you. Sorry, I had to throw that out there. I was thinking about how like a lot of people think Fresno is like a terrible place, and it's not. There's some great human beings coming out of there. Shout out to all my homies that are from Fresno. No, but seriously, like Fresno is a fantastic place, and it's a bummer that what happened with Fresno FC. But I'm so glad that you're here, Jesse, and I'm so glad that Elijah Martin has found a way to, make this his home. Because, dude, literally, like to us, you guys are San Diego now. Like that's the way that we see it, right, Drew?
Thank you.
Oh yeah, that's 100%. Well, I was gonna say that, and I was gonna say what's interesting is both you guys kind of coming from there, and Jerry, you share this as well, kind of growing up on the inland side of California, kind of growing up not next to the beach necessarily, and coming here. What part of that do you think is kind of made you feel like that's part of the identity here with this club? Because there's always been a discussion for us internally of kind of San Diego has two sides too, right? It's in terms of people who are a little more inland or just kind of different parts. Ramona and Alpine and Julian are very different. Yeah, Spring Valley are all very different than other parts that are even 15, 20 minutes away. And obviously Fresno being just different than most of California. I think trying to find those stories, you guys have done a great job, I think, of helping tell a lot of those stories. But just kind of personally for you, what does that mean in terms of translating what makes it different, and then also the stories that Californians maybe overlook or other people overlook in California? What's been most exciting for you about that kind of stuff?
To me, honestly, like I think people in Fresno have like this chip on the shoulder naturally, just based on like what you were saying. I mean, like everybody looks down on Fresno, and you grow up with that. Yeah, and you grow up thinking that like, oh man, I got to get out of here sooner than later, type of thing. But then as you get older, you start maturing. You're like, you know what? I've learned a lot. Like this is who I am, type of thing. So when you do get out of Fresno, you start appreciating it even more than what you did. So for me, I think it just gives you that grit and like hard work. And I think Elijah showcased that during the year. Like myself, like I've learned that getting away from home. So differences, there's very minimal when it comes to that, aside from obviously, like you said, the geographic component of like everything in San Diego was obviously the weather alone is like the biggest difference, which I'll tell you a story on that one real quick after. But that's the thing I realized real quick. It's the demographics are very similar to city for being how big it is. It's still like that small town component that you meet people right away. Like I feel like I've met so many people, and I've been here for a year that was in a pandemic where you shouldn't be around people, which is interesting to say. You know what I mean?
Imagine if it wasn't a pandemic, dude.
And that, I honestly, I think about that. I'm like, how that just shows you a community special when that can actually happen or make people feel like comfortable about it. So I think that's the component for people like me and Elijah that come from Fresno, have been there our entire life. It's just you kind of have this chip and you want to keep showcasing who you are and just put your own city on the map, if you want to call it that way, or represent good for your city, but at the same time, just be who you are. Because I think at the end of the day, that helps. One story in regards to the biggest difference was the weather. Last December 2019, Ryan and I were out there. We're shooting Eric Avila's photos for like his announcement, and we're at what's called Moonlight Beach. It was December like 17th or something, I don't know. And I was walking short sleeve, and I was like, dude, it's like the weather is literally perfect. I was walking, I was thinking like, why is it like 70 degrees right now? This makes no sense. In Fresno right now, I have like a peak coat ×2. So I was just walking. It was sunny. The weather was perfect. I'm like, this is a little weird, and that's when I knew. I was like, this is like the Dorothy moment where I'm like, this is not Kansas anymore. This is not Fresno. Like, it was for sure perfect.
Yeah, it's the sunshine tax. We all pay for it. We all pay for it, but it's worth it. It's so worth it. But to piggyback off of kind of Drew's question about, and I agree, it's, being born and raised here. I know this community. I know North County in and out, and I know San Diego, but born and raised in North County myself.
Hey, Steve, did you know that Spring Valley is the Fresno of San Diego?
I did. Now I know it even more. The question is like, Drew talked a lot about the diversity here and how different little areas are. So how do you like market to that? Because there's no way to like do that in a simple manner, right? There's no way to do like simple initiatives that are going to connect all of San Diego together in one way. So like, how do you appeal to South Bay and North County and East County and and the Hispanic community and there's so many different little sub communities here that how do you develop a marketing strategy on that? I'm really
Honestly, it's as simple as, to me, one approach I've taken because one of my biggest things when I started working with Grizzlies or even Fresno FC that I personally took was engaging with the Hispanic community, just because I know here, no matter what sport it is, even if it's soccer and that's like the main sport when it comes to the culture, there's still a lack of trust. You know what I mean? With the institution component of it and like the structure of it. So, and they're accustomed to obviously what they see in Liga MX and things of that nature. So to me, it's just understanding how to build trust at the end of the day. And I went, honestly, my broadcast career, if you want to call it that, is where I learned that. Like, I learned the hard way of like learning my Spanish, getting better. So over the years of broadcasting, the listeners started like supporting me more than they were critiquing me because of my Spanish. And Jerry, you probably know, like, bad Spanish gets critiqued real quick, especially if you're a Mexican person that should be speaking Spanish, is the way they see it.
In chinga.
Yep, right away. So that I learned real quick of like the trust factor has to be there. So after years of broadcasting, they started realizing like, hey, this guy's trying. As long as he's trying, that's all that matters. And then I think that's the biggest key. So I think to your question, Steve, is just pretty much learning how to get every aspect of our community to trust that we're just here to really bridge everybody together, bring them together into one focal point for the betterment of our entire community through soccer, I think is the key. So everybody has preferences and likes and what they want. So we just try to have like, that's kind of like our North Star. We go towards that for every community, you can say. At the same time, being transparent and being authentic and just trying to help them out and build that trust with them, I think is the key. And I'm sure you guys know that as a supporters group. I mean, you want trust both ways with us, with your own members. And I think that's the key for us as well.
Right. I think authenticity is the key word that you said there. And I agree. I mean, that's as leadership representation, the three of us here, just a part of that. But we try to be authentic. We're here for the betterment of our members. We're here to grow a community. We're here to build a family and build support for the club and help you guys with your initiatives and make this as big as possible. Obviously, last year was as hard as it gets, but we're doing what we can, just like you guys are. But I'm just here to say you guys are killing it. So keep going, and you're on your way up for sure.
One thing that we were having a conversation, Drew and I earlier, were talking about what this club can eventually be like, and kind of what we were seeing as, I think Drew said it, a church. Like, at the risk of being somewhat sacrilegious, honestly, what it should be like is just a little blasphemy. This should feel like something that you want to be a part of, that you want to go to every Sunday, and you have this family around you that supports you. It's no longer about yourself; it's about the community. And so I know that for example, and in my background, I can't help it. I'm sorry, but I'm going to do it again. With LAFC, the president of the club when they started out was calling the bank. The bank, for those of you that don't know, it's Bank of California Stadium, where LAFC plays. He would call it the Cathedral of Soccer in the heart of the city. and like we want our cathedral. I think eventually we will get our cathedral. But if you look at it that way, I think that you get that idea that Jesse was talking about is bringing everybody together at one focal point, which is our cathedral, right? On the day for mass, to watch our boys
USD is
go
a
out
Catholic
there
university.
and sing.
I feel you there.
And you know, the 11 on the field are the choir boys, and they're gonna
they're singing at church and they're singing in
this analogy is going off the rails.
Too far. It's too much. That's too much. But true, right? I mean, we're having that conversation because it's very true.
You create a special place, and I think as what we've alluded to when we talked about the social a bit and just kind of the things you've done just generally, and even before then, the craftedness to say we want to have a human hand here, but also something that feels authentic, something that feels real and feels like a thing we're building together. It's not a company, it's not a for-profit corporation, it's something that's a community that's wrapped around this ideal that's part of, you know, what becomes a brand, but the brand itself is the community, and that's been very special to watch and have in the first year. And you guys have done an amazing job of making that authentic and real before the moments that cemented it at the very end of the season to a lot of people internationally almost. So kudos to being in that position, but also again the hard work and kind of mindset it took to constantly every day show up and believe in that when certain points, as Steve said, it wasn't paying off in the middle of the season, that felt harder to believe in. But in the end, it was all worth it because of the fact that everyone stayed true to that North Star. So as Jerry's saying, it really is a sense of creating a special place that's, in this case, something that's not physical at this point. It is in that stadium when we can be there, but it really is something that we're all part of. And then as it becomes more manifested physically, you know, you'll see it everywhere in the community, and then, you know, in the hearts of people. And that's really what you want, is every shop window when you drive by. You know, in Portland for me is where it was cemented to drive by and just see the same way you'd see insert football team in every city, you know, Packers, you know, in Green Bay or anywhere in Wisconsin, every bar has a Packers thing in the window, just every single one. And in Portland, same thing. You see a Timbers thing in almost every single window of every single bar.
Dude, on that note, I actually just sent a picture to Ricardo earlier today because in my neighborhood, I hadn't seen it. Somebody in front of me had a San Diego Loyal sticker on their car. And so I took a picture real quick and I sent it to Ricardo. I was like, dude, it's in my hood. You guys are doing it. You guys are doing it. You know, like exactly to your point. Sorry to interrupt you, but I just
the Santana's guys in my neighborhood talking about the tacos have loyal masks. And then Ricardo told me it's because he gave it to them. So that's the twist ending. That's the inception ending there, is that he was part of that. But it is one of those things where, like, as you see that start popping in, those little magical surprises you see coming in. He made me go to Santana's today after he called me. It became
I think we're wrapping it up here, but before we go, I have to ask you one crucial question. In your opinion alone, what is your favorite taco shop in San Diego?
Yeah.
With 1 year of being here, Steve, that's a little rough, man.
Hey, he asked the question.
What's his favorite?
If he says Tacos El Gordo, and everybody's gonna be like, "No, Jesse don't know what he's talking about." I just want to real quick preface this by saying Jesse's only been here a year. All right, give him a break. And we're asking San Diego because all of a sudden he's gonna be like, in Fresno, there's this taqueria that
So honestly, I've said this, and you guys probably feel the same way. And Ryan would attest to it. Like, in Fresno, tacos are completely different. Like, you literally see a taco truck in every corner. So I have a different mindset when it comes to, like, tacos de gordo is good, but it's not the style taco that I'm used to. You know what I mean? Type of thing. So it's been hard, to be honest, to find the taco that I'm like all about, because of where I think we talked about it yesterday on our social. Like, Ryan and I worked in Fresno, where Fresno Grizzlies, we had a taco truck throwdown where 30 trucks at the stadium, inside the stadium during a baseball game. You know what I mean? So that's how big taco trucks are there. So for us, like for me particular, like I've been honestly like every week trying to find a different place just to try them, but they've all been good so far. So I think, oh man, which is my favorite? I haven't had too many opportunities given the circumstance, but this is real good.
Oh, wait. Hold on. You said it, but I was talking over you because I was going to say, if you hear this and it's muted, it's because we contacted them and they refused. But go ahead, Jesse.
Lolita's is good. What's your now? Tacos de Gordos is good. I just haven't found. I found a taco truck in Linda Vista. I think it's called Taco Time. That one's pretty good. It has good habanero sauce, which I'm all about. And honestly, I'm gonna say like tacos. The meat could be like the meat's good, but the salsa makes a difference. If you have the bad salsa and good meat, it's a wrap. Like it's not good.
You my man. That's exactly. That's right.
Oh yeah. Definitely, I would say definitely go wait in line at Las Cuatro Milpas in Barrio Logan. Definitely
honestly,
worth it.
So when we tweeted that out yesterday, honestly, like I'm not joking. I literally am taking notes because I'm gonna hit up all those spots. And Cuatro Milpas was definitely one of the places I'm like, okay, we got to go to Barrio Logan.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm born and raised in North County, so like me, meals and stuff down in San Diego, few and far between. But anytime I find myself near Barrio Logan, I take the time to go stop by Las Cuatro Milpas and make sure I get some food from there.
There it is.
Definitely worth the wait there.
I used to do it before Bridge Barcada. Never again.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that.
No, I only do it after.
Why?
You know what the problem is? It's so close to where you guys are at in Barrio.
Yeah, you can smell it.
Well, you need a little bit more of a walk so you can walk those tacos off. That's the problem. The soccer playing isn't enough.
Yeah, like a game, and then you're like,
oh, now I know exactly where it is then. When we did the Dia de los Muertos shoot, I remember seeing it
from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just right
there.
You actually always spell the orange chicken of the place that's next to it that I think makes some sort of like weird stuff. There's some sort of like Asian smell that drifts onto the courts, and then if you walk just a little bit towards the racquetball courts, you can smell it kind of even from there. But it is the standard to me in terms of tacos. But I got my own favorite places that are mostly just random trucks. Usually, I'm more of a truck guy too. I just kind of like the aesthetic. Usually, the food that comes from the truck for me is what I enjoy most about those kind of tacos. So
that's definitely me. I mentioned that in the office, and everybody looked at me like, "What?" I'm like, "No, seriously, carne asada tacos, Fresno." Fish tacos, obviously, I'm not even gonna argue that. That's obviously San Diego, to be honest. I think I ate more fish tacos the first month I was here, when I first started, than I ever have in my life. So
beef supply is an issue here too. You get a better beef supply up there in Fresno, I'm sure, in terms of like the quality of meat and that kind of stuff too. But
for sure,
it's also the difference in places that will not put the salsa on the taco.
Yeah, having gone to college in San Luis Obispo, I can definitely attest to the tri-tip and the kind of the steak up there. So. For sure.
Oh, there you go. See, it's one of those things like, nobody will ever be as good as Mama's cooking. And Mama's cooking in this case is San Diego.
There you go.
Yeah.
It is what it is, guys. But if you haven't checked that out, go to twitter.com/San Diego Loyal and scroll down to where they ask. For reals, let's take a minute to be serious about this. What is the best taco spot? And just go and take notes and check all these places out. Seriously.
Let's see, 100 replies as of right now, time of recording. 100 replies.
See, like something simple like that already is like the community is. They have some ideas. They have some thoughts. And tacos is on everybody's.
Might as well be a Wikipedia page at this point.
Seriously.
I had like this idea of how I was gonna close this out with you, Jesse, and now I'm like completely lost because I'm thinking about eating some tacos.
I know we're all gonna drive out for
10:30. Like that's taco time all the way.
I know.
Everyone knows.
Dennis has a drive-through, so
this is right around the time when soccer games start like letting people out. There's people outside with some carts, tacos, some hot dogs.
Hot dogs and bacon. Let's go.
Ooh, that's what I'm.
Damn you guys.
That's what I want our future to look like here. Yes. With the locals in San Diego Loyal. But Jesse, seriously, man, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us. We're gonna press stop on record here shortly, but hopefully you'll hang out with us for a little bit more. We want to kind of hang out and talk.
Yeah, already know. Yeah.
Like the thing for us, I think, as supporters, is we very much want to feel like we own this thing, like there's an ownership to the club, and I think that we definitely feel it. And if for those of you that don't yet, contact me and tell me why, because seriously, they're doing everything that they possibly can to bring us in, to ask us what we think, how we feel about things. They're representing the community in such a way that you're not going to see that in professional sports. So and then the players too coming in. You know, it's everybody that's coming in. There's a certain idea behind all of this that is so concrete, and the foundation is still being built. That's what I'm saying. Jesse, I don't know if you feel like the foundation was built in 1 year. I don't think that that's the case. I think we're still building it together. Yeah. So if you are even thinking about joining the locals or joining San Diego Loyal as a season ticket holder, I'm not a sales rep for them. Maybe someday. I don't know. Not right now. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm drinking beer. I'm just having a good time. Anyways, just hit up the club and join us, because we would love to share some beers with you. Honestly, like that's what we're here for, is to just have some good times, to escape from reality. Sometimes, unfortunately for Jesse, this is his job, which actually that's not unfortunate. That's kind of cool. Unfortunately for him, on game day, he can drink with us. But but you know, it's one of those things that we all choose our paths, Jesse. All right, just
for sure. But it's funny you say that though, because you talk about passion during a match, and like in baseball, you can't be in a press box and like your team that you work for hits home run. You can't do anything because reporters to like
technically can't do that in soccer either. By the way,
no, you can't. But our press box, that's where I'm at during the games, and we score a goal, I'm jumping. Like, sorry.
Don't be sorry.
No.
It's so professional, Jesse Beltran.
Yeah, seriously, like it's a whole different game. Like,
I love it.
That's a difference.
I want subtweets kind of our press team, just to be like, oh, these guys, and they're rooting for their team that they work for.
You should see our Slack channel during a game. Honestly, that's where it gets
good.
Oh yeah, that would be pretty good. You guys should release a video of that. You could even fake it a bit or script it, but you guys should definitely maybe show an insight there. That would be like inside the brain a little bit. Maybe scary. Who knows?
Is Hector usually in the media box or in the press box, like wearing his Footy McFoot like outfit? Shout out to Hector. I don't think
he lives in my nightmares in that outfit. Actually, dude, usually where he is in the deep recesses of my mind. I just turn a corner in like a hallway. I'm at some job in my dreams, you know, working for the San Diego Chicken Incorporated. And then I turn the corner, and then there's Hector there in the Footy McFooty face, and it's a nightmare.
I love you, Hector, but God, you're scary, bro. You're scary.
On that note, yeah, I mean, thank you again for your time, Jesse, and I love what you guys have done through the challenges through 2020, and I can't wait for what's to come in 2021. So, again, thank you for your time on behalf of us. We look forward to working with you more going forward.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, guys.
That was perfect. Thank you, Steve. Dude, you don't even need me anymore, man. All right, let's do this. For Mr. Drew Stack, for Mr. Steve Brokoff, and for Mr. Jesse Beltran, my name is Jerry Jimenez. Thank you for hanging out with us. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.